So hi everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Toby. I do a lot of creative work in the real estate space and I help people navigate residential and commercial real estate market to achieve their goals, whether it's buying or selling real estate or investing. I'm happy to help out with that. I also leverage social media, Facebook ads to help people sell as quickly as possible. So I'm excited to be here again with you guys. Some of you have been part of my monthly webinars. Some of you it's your first time. But we'll talk about the topic at hand. But we'll also open it up at the end for Q&A. So if you have any question, just write it down. And I'll be happy to talk about it at the end. If you have a question, it's probably a question somebody else also has. So please don't be shy. Um, I had a cold. I took my son to daycare for the first time last week. Then he got sick. Then we all got sick. So I feel slightly congested. So I might be clearing my throat a lot. Just know that that's part of why I'm doing that. So please bear with me. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. So about me, I'm currently a full-time realtor licensed in Texas and Florida with a background in corporate accounting and finance. While I was doing my full-time job, I was also investing in real estate. This is back in the days. I started as a wholesaler, knocking on doors, putting signs on the street, looking for motivated sellers. Then I got into rehabbing. Then during COVID, I started doing the realtor side of the business full-time. But I got my license in 2018. Then I started doing it full-time last year. But I've been working as a realtor since 2018. On a personal note, I'm happily married. I'm blessed to be called a dad. Interesting fact about me is I've run over 13 half marathons and 12 of them are full marathons. And I've traveled to 13 countries. I'm going to Malaysia and Thailand next month, so I'm looking forward to that. And sometimes we don't have enough time on this meeting to talk about everything, but feel free to scan the barcode, set up a meeting with me on Calendly. I will make sure I get to you and we have time to talk about any specific question or concerns you have about real estate. So today, what you'll learn about the 5 key mistakes people make when getting into real estate or purchasing, how to avoid them, and just pros for a smooth home buying experience. But before we get into that, I think it's good for us to just brush up on some real estate 101. We have 4 types of real estate: residential, commercial, industrial, and land. There's a lot on each one. Today we'll be talking mostly about the residential side. But I definitely do help people with residential, commercial, and the land side of real estate. One of the most popular mistake is skipping pre-approval. Skipping pre-approval can waste your time a lot when you're trying to purchase a house. And also sellers take you more seriously when they know you're pre-approved because they want to know, okay, does this person have an ability to purchase this house before they even talk about the kind of price adjustment or the incentives that they can give you. Typically, as a realtor, when I talk to people and they tell me their income or they tell me what they owe, I can have an idea whether they'll be pre-approved or not. But I know you, the seller doesn't. So I always encourage people to try to get pre-approved, just to have an idea of what their budget is, and so that we're focused. But also sometimes things come up during the pre-approval process that people have time to work on. So it's good if you get that done, you work on those items, and maybe in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, when you're actually ready to buy a house, there's nothing to be surprised about. I mean, I think the main reason why people don't try to get pre-approval is people don't want their credit to be pulled. But some lenders would do a soft check. But most lenders like to do a pre-approval, so it is possible to get a pre-approval even without a hard check on your credit. But even if they run your credit, usually it's 2 to 5 points maximum, and that's why you have a credit. Real estate is such a huge purchase. It's a big deal that that's literally one of the biggest reasons why you have credit, to be able to know what you're qualified for and to make sure that you're making great decision. Underestimating costs. Anyone that's worked with me knows that before we get under contract, I always make sure that my buyer knows exactly what their monthly is going to be, what their taxes, insurance, HOA is going to be, and what their closing cost is. Now, on the building side, a lot of builders have been doing a lot to cover a majority of the closing costs. So, from my experience this year, it's been mostly less than 1%. except you're choosing to pay a little bit more to reduce your interest rate further when it comes to closing costs on top of your down payment, right? Your down payment is given, it's 3.5 for FHA or 3% for first-time home buyer or 5% for conventional. So that's given. But the closing costs we're talking about here is your financing, your title, your prorations, your tax and insurance prorations. So a lot of builders have been doing more to cover those extra ones to keep you at 1% or less. Except you want to spend a little more money buying down your interest rate, then it could go higher. But you definitely want to know that. I also don't want to spend all your savings on a house because things do happen and you want to have emergency funds for at least 6 months. If you lose your job or something breaks in the house and you don't have warranty on that, you have the funds to fix that. Your utility costs and utility, especially the energy side, is tends to be lower on the newer houses because they do a lot to insulate them. But you want to have an idea of all what is your total cost and make sure that that's something you're comfortable with. But for the most part, I mean, lenders will not approve you if you cannot afford it. But it is your responsibility to determine what you can afford, right? Just because the lender says you can afford something does not mean that's something you want to pay for. So you have to really look within and make sure that you're comfortable with the numbers. And on the realtor side, I mean, the realtor will go with whatever you tell them, right? And the realtor is there to advise you, but it's your responsibility to know exactly what you want and the budget you're comfortable with. Letting emotions drive your decision. This can lead to overpaying or choosing a property that does not fit your long-term needs. You know, falling in love with a home may cause you to overlook, obvious flaws, and sometimes it's going to lead you to sell the house quickly without the house gaining equity. So try to be as objective as possible. I mean, and that's why your realtor is there to guide you through the process. But also, you also have to listen to the realtor. But also you can have like a family member or someone that you know that is going to be objective, right? To run your ideas by just to make sure that you're not being emotional about the process. But it really starts with your budget, right? If you can get that right, then articulate exactly what your needs are, right? And I mean, your realtor or I typically will do a great job trying to get you exactly what you want. Now, generally in the Dallas area, the farther you're from Dallas, the less the price, right? The closer you are to Dallas, the more the price. So that's something that's always a balance that people have to have when they're making the purchase versus how beautiful, how new they want the house to be, and how far they want to live from Dallas area. Another mistake people have is not hiring the right agents. This can lead to missed opportunities, bad negotiation, very costly mistakes. There are there are sellers that negotiate. There are sellers that don't negotiate. There are builders that negotiate. There are builders that don't negotiate, right? And anytime I'm working with my clients, I let them know that, okay, this is a builder that don't negotiate. Um, and this is a builder that does negotiate. Typically, the builders that don't negotiate, their prices are very low or a little bit lower than market. So they feel pretty confident that you can't beat the price. But generally, a lot of builders negotiate. Some builders are more flexible to negotiate maybe the closing costs. Some of them are more flexible on the pricing. Some of them are more flexible on the interest rate. Some of them are flexible on everything, right? So it's always good that's why you need an experienced agent to guide you through and know that, okay, what matters most to you? Some people, what matters most to them is their monthly payment. Some people, what matters most to them is their cash to close. That's going to impact the nature of the negotiation depending on what really matters most to each person. So how do you know an experienced agent? They must have great negotiation skills, clear communication, and you should never feel lost. You should always know where you are in the process, and you should have a clear roadmap on the next steps to do, or on what to do next, right? Um, so that's that. Poor timing and rushing the process. Sometimes it's just not a good time. Sometimes the income is not there for you to purchase. Sometimes the numbers don't make sense. Sometimes there's just a lot of unfinished decisions that has to be made, or market conditions are just like interesting. Um, but I would say purchasing a real estate property, it's always going to feel a little scary because I mean it's a lot of money. And most buyers will feel a little bit sick in their stomach getting into a long-term mortgage, 30-year mortgage. So that's very normal. But if you feel like you can't sleep at night, for a couple of days and you're really stressed out, you probably should not do it. But yeah, it is a big decision, so you might feel a little bit uncomfortable. But what should help you, you should know you're doing it right when the more you get information, the more you're educated, the better you should feel. Um, so yeah, so poor timing and rushing the process, it's a big problem. It could lead to higher prices and very costly mistakes. Um, and also financing delays. So that's something you want to keep in mind. In real estate, also I would say that real estate is a long-term investment. So focus not just on short term, but long term, right? What is your long-term goal? And also have more than one strategy, right? If A fails, what is B, right? So that you have the various angles, and no matter what life throws at you, you're ready. But everything comes down to preparation, right? So a very quick recap of the process. Try not to skip pre-approval. Um, you got to understand your budget, account for all the costs beyond mortgage, right? Think about, your closing costs, and just other costs that you have to deal with after you move into the property. Stay as objective as possible when making a decision. Work with somebody that understands the market and listens to you and understands your need. You should not be working with a realtor that's rushing you to buy a house. I definitely do not rush my clients, but I just make sure I'm educating them. But some clients are scared, and sometimes they need a little bit of encouragement. So I make sure I'm walking that fine line between encouraging them, knowing I'm supporting them, but also not pressuring them to buy something that they're not comfortable with, or the time they're not comfortable with it. Time your purchase wisely. Make sure it's the time that works for you, and also do inspection. I've had an inspection might cost you $400, $300, but it could save you thousands, $10,000, right? Generally, on the new build side, builders are going to do their inspection of the property, but you want to pay somebody that works for you. They're called a third party independent inspector. To inspect the property, what do? They get on top of the roof. They make sure that the shingles, everything is intact. There's no broken screw. They check the pipes to make sure that they're solid and there's no risk for damage. They check the foundation. They check the irrigation at your back to make sure that you don't have much risk for flooding and at the front side of the house. They check the windows to make sure that it's well aligned and it's not sticky right there. They check the water temperature. They check a lot of things that are not obvious to the naked eye, and they have instrument. They check the airflow. You have some houses that some rooms will be hot, some rooms will be cold. They make sure that that's balanced well. So things like that. Those are very important things that you're gonna have to deal with if you don't get an inspector. So that's pretty much it in terms of mistakes to avoid. Um, well, this is my journey with real estate. But we don't really need much of that in this slide because this is more for like in this presentation, it's more for an investment.